also, I will see if I can start sharing my screen here and share our plan for the next few minutes. Here we go. I think it's visible. Can you confirm, Ria? Looks like it is. We'll see. I think you all are able to see my screen, so we'll just go with that. um, my name is Priyanka Vargaria. I'm a staff developer advocate in the Google Cloud team. And basically, what I get to do is learn new things about cloud, and then create content so that other people can learn from that as well. So every time a new product comes out, or an existing product with newer features, or if we learn from the community that there is need for more tutorials, more blogs for explaining certain things because it may not be clear, or helping troubleshoot things like that, I would take up, and my team would take up and create content in the form of videos or blogs or tutorials to help make other developers' life easier as they are building with cloud, and in general with cloud, and then obviously specifically with Google Cloud. So that's me. The plan that I have today for the next few minutes is to go through a little bit of a question that I usually get from folks who are either just beginning their career in cloud, or they're getting or they have questions about building a sustainable career in cloud. So that's kind of what I've planned for today. But in order to do that, we need to sort of understand the evolution of cloud and where it's headed. So I'll focus a little bit on where do you start, where the cloud is headed, and then inside that, how do you build your career in cloud? From there, how do you build a sustainable career in cloud? Because as things evolve in cloud, which is super fast, you will have to basically sustain your career in the same way or evolve your career in the same way as the cloud is evolving. So how do you do that? And then third is, what type of jobs and roles will the cloud create in the next decade? And then how can you, it kind of ties into the second point, which is how do you build a sustainable career in cloud, um, and also understand or have an understanding of what the evolution would look like, so that you know what jobs and roles would be created, and then map it back into your career growth. And then, so jumping right in here, there are lots of different areas within cloud. And you're seeing all of these coming up. And there's definitely one area, maybe two, maybe three, that you already have maybe experience in or interest in order to start your journey in cloud. Maybe you're already in an area, maybe you already are an application developer, and you're like, you know what, I want to build my career in cloud. I know how to build applications. Let's see how to build applications for cloud, right? That could be a path. The other path could be, I'm already a security engineer. How do I build uh, how do I become like a cloud security engineer? Or I already do system operations. How do I become a DevOps engineer? I already have experience in the networking. How do I become a networking engineer in cloud? Same way for data and analytics and data science and machine learning. If you're a machine learning engineer or a data science engineer, how do you translate your skills into cloud? So that's kind of what it is all about. And then the biggest question that you usually get asked is, how do you build build into these paths, right? And the one thing that I always like to say is, there are some roles that may or may not require you to code on a daily basis, but within cloud, any role, you will have a competitive advantage if you're coding. So the first step in the process of getting into cloud or making a really good sustainable career in cloud is coding is really non-negotiable. You kind of have to learn coding. If you already know a language, great, get better at it, start building apps with it. If you don't know any language and are just starting out, pick up a language. I would pick something like Go or Python because they're easier to learn, easier to get started. And so, yeah, just this one major point, which is why it's on this one big screen. Just coding is really non-negotiable. You have to pick up at least one coding language. The second piece is internet fundamentals. How does the internet work? Do you know what happens when you type a URL in the browser? When you hit enter, what are the different steps? How does a client makes a connection with the server? What's TCP? What's HTTP protocol, right? How does SSL work on that connection? And then how does the response come back? How does the HTML actually display that response? Where are the things getting stored? What does the backend look like? All of these things. Where's the database? What type of database could it be using? They're all part of internet fundamentals, and they're super critical and important for you to know to start gaining expertise in cloud from wherever, whatever your background and initial experiences. These two things, the coding and the internet fundamentals, will just make you feel a lot more confident starting to build your journey in cloud. Once you have that, once you have those two things, then comes your cloud path, right? How do you understanding your cloud path? And this could look different for different people. It definitely differs based on your past experiences. Like I was saying, if you were a network engineer, your path would look very different from if you're somebody who was a database administrator, right? And so I want to give you a few examples of this is the portrayal of, like, if you're coming from security background, your path is being a security engineer. I mean, you could become a machine learning engineer from the security background, but hey, we all know that's going to take a little bit more effort than just translating our skills one on one onto cloud, and then maybe moving on further to build those additional skills that you might be interested in. So start from the least resistance path, which is why I say if you already have a background in any of these categories, in any of these paths, then I would start with that and translate that into cloud, and then try to move into any other areas that are of interest to me. So this is an example. Let's say Nina here was a database administrator, has traditional database background, and is wanting to become a cloud database engineer. What would she have to do, right? So this is like basically cloudifying your skills. So some of the things that she could do as a 1, 2, 3 step process is she can deploy the same database that she knows and has full mastery over into the Google Cloud Compute Engine. That's basically translating her current skills into the area of cloud, but um, not a lot of change, right? She would deploy the same database on premises. This is the same way she's doing it, but in cloud. Very easy. So that's the first step. The second step could be she automates the deployment of that database in Compute Engine using Terraform, which is infrastructure as code. Third step could be she deploys the same database, but using a cloud database like Cloud SQL. If this is a MySQL database that she's deploying, she could use a cloud SQL database in cloud. Now she could go further and try other cloud native databases that are built and scale better in cloud and stuff like that. But that could be the path of starting out. And then she could go out there and get those database engineer certifications to kind of master the area even further. So that could be one path. This is an example of another developer who is an application developer. Now this person wants to build for cloud, and again same things sort of apply, but this path would look a little bit different, right? Because she's an application developer. You build the first thing you could do, I broke it down into 4 steps. The first thing she could do is build the application and write the code for it, right? And deploy it in a virtual machine like Google Compute Engine. And then once that she knows how to deploy it in virtual machine, the next step could be she containerizes this so that she learns the containerization process, the Kubernetes, and then deploy it with Google Kubernetes engine. That's could be the second step. The third step could be taking that even further and deploying the same application, which is containerized, with serverless infrastructure like Cloud Run. And then, so now in this process, in the 1, 2, 3 steps, she's learned about virtual machines, she's learned about containerization, she's learned about what serverless deployments look like. And then, as the fourth step, she could understand the entire process of DevOps for this application by how do you securely build and how do you securely build your build pipelines and deploy them. So that could be one of her paths. Now, again, she's learning a little bit of DevOps as well in this process. But if this was a DevOps engineer, maybe most of this could be you got this application. This could even apply for a DevOps engineer, right? Because they need to learn also how an application would be deployed in each of these different ways onto cloud. So a DevOps engineer's journey could look something more like this as well. And number 4 could go even further, like how do you secure the software development lifecycle? How do you secure your builds? Where do you store them? All of that. So that's 2 or 3 journeys. Now the a classic example of like somebody who does not know where to start, does not have the background of like, okay, we looked at 2 examples of a database engineer and an application developer, or even a DevOps engineer. They had some background from their past experience, which they can translate. Now, this person is starting from scratch, has no background in any of those fields. Now, there is still hope for somebody like that, because and I think this is powerful because there's nothing to start from, so you start from scratch, which is also a great place to be. So for folks like this, I always recommend starting out with an associate level cloud engineer learning. So what that means is an associate level cloud engineer and architect. If you look for associate level cloud engineer certification, you'll see the path for it on Google Cloud. So it sort of expects you to know a little bit of infrastructure, a little bit of networking, a little bit of security, a little bit of data, a little bit of ML, a little bit of sort of everything. And that what it does for somebody who has no background in any of these is helps you build the foundation for what makes more sense for you, what are you more interested in. And once you've gone through this path, you can then pick or decide that, you know what, I have more interest in data side of things, so I'm going to go pursue more learnings on the cloud data engineering side, or I have more interest in security, so I'm going to go do that. So you can decide after that basic level of understanding, the fundamental understanding of being a cloud associate level cloud engineer. I think that path was really great. And then obviously, since you go through this process of learning, I always say certifications are valuable only if you look at them the right way. So there are lots of cloud certifications out there, and the one I mentioned is associate level cloud architect. For somebody who is starting from scratch, I would definitely recommend studying for a certification, because it not because you want to get certified, but because you want to have structured study plan so that you can get through all of those points that I've mentioned here, right? You know a little bit of networking, you know a little bit of infrastructure. It gives you some hands-on practice. There are labs in there in the study plan, so that you can create your understanding and learnings about cloud in all of these areas. Now, at the end of it, you should probably get certified because you've studied so hard to sort of gain that knowledge. But the idea behind mentioning the certification here is not for you to think about, I need to get a certification. It's more for a structured study plan that I recommend going through that. And then once you have gotten that, you will feel a little more confident even in your skill set. And then you can decide whether you want to pursue professional level cloud architect or stay in the architect realm, or you want to switch and gain a little more experience in any of those other areas like data or machine learning or networking or application development. It opens up your mind to all of these other things. With that, we come to the question of how do I show to the hiring managers that I have the right experience? Now, this is exactly um, where you have to focus on your just the certification is not going to help you, right? Which is exactly why I always say certification is a great way for you to build a study plan and gain all of the knowledge and and sort of the lack of experience that you get from not working in the same field. You can compensate that by learning through that study plan and structured plan because you get hands-on labs and things like that to sort of prep yourself. But when it comes to the hiring managers, you'll have to translate that. If you have a certification or if you've gone through these labs, can you actually do the job, right? And that only comes from if you have explicit like portfolio, right? And I would focus on building that portfolio as I'm going through all these learnings. But if whether I'm going through a study plan, through certification, or I'm just learning on my own, what you have to focus on is building your portfolio. And this could be on GitHub. You make an application that goes through, I think I have it. This could one of the ways in which you can create your portfolio is by working with the teams that are around you. If they have a project, you raise your hand and be like, I'm interested in gaining a little more skill set on this side of things. Let me collaborate with you. That could be one way. There might not always be such opportunities. If that is the case, you go this route, which is you pick a project that's of interest to you. Let's say you're into videos or you're into photographs. You have a bunch of photographs of your own that you want to host. How does a photo hosting application work, right? You start building it, you have to code a little bit, you have to build your foundational concepts, learn a little bit of Linux, and then learn a little bit of networking. You'll also learn how people are going to get to it, well, how basically everything to build an application, right? Once you go through that process deploying that application in cloud, um, that is going to give you start building your portfolio. It's also going to start give you the confidence of answering questions like, why did you pick this database for, or why did you pick this object store for storing your static files, right? You can answer that question very confidently in an interview, because those are the types of questions an interviewer would be interested in asking and getting answers for. Can you make choices amongst different services that are available in cloud, and what is your reasoning behind that? And the answers differ from what situations you were in, what situation somebody else might be in, or that particular architecture warrants this type of decision making. So all of that would come from making and building an application of your own. And then once you've built it, put it on GitHub, talk about it, write a blog, share it on LinkedIn, share it with folks if you're on other social media platforms, so that people can know that you are doing all this. You're doing all this work, and especially on LinkedIn, that's a great way to get noticed by hiring managers and by recruiters. Let's skip through that. How do you build a sustainable career? Now, this brings me into like the world of once you are in cloud, how do you keep growing, right? Let's say you are a cloud architect or a cloud data engineer. How do you keep growing? And that really depends on what is the next. wave of cloud computing looks like. And there are four different pillars in which cloud is sort of evolving. Um, and I will go through each of these quickly. And then security and DevSecOps is sort of that which applies to all of those four pillars. So modern compute, think about serverless. Serverless is becoming super prevalent these days, mainly because if you're going to be deploying your application in cloud, you really don't want to be worrying about how is it going to scale. If I'm a startup, for example, I have 500 people coming to my application today, but tomorrow it might be 5 million. I don't want to be thinking about how I'm going to scale that up or scale it back down. And then money is important as well. If I'm not using the resources for 5 million requests, I don't want to have them provisioned. So serverless is a great way. So that's kind of where a lot of the cloud enhancements are happening right now. Then the other piece is databases and database engines. There's lots of work going on in the area of bringing together relational and non-relational databases. How do you query them for analytics right where they are without having to move the data from one place to another. So there's lots of enhancements that cloud providers are doing in that category. Google Cloud just launched Alloy DB in the category of like building a database that is um, also open source. So it's I like to call it PostgreSQL on steroids. So you don't sort of have to manage any of it, but it's fast Postgres. So things like that, which is amalgamation of multiple different things, but sort of makes it faster and better, and querying experience is better. Now, the third is AI and ML. AI ML is definitely an area where there's skill set growth and development that's required. A lot of companies need AI ML engineers, but there's not a lot of them out there. So that requires cloud providers, for example, Google. What we are doing is building platforms that help you increase your skill set on AI and ML. So let's say I'm not an AI ML engineer, I can still use no code platform in Vertex AI to sort of build machine learning models using AutoML. But if I'm an expert in machine learning, I can also use the entire end-to-end pipeline of creating ML models and deploying them, and then monitoring them, and then continuing to improve my ML models as the data changes or evolves. So it depends on. So there's definitely requirement of tools being created in that, which leads to jobs in those areas. But then there's also a requirement of people in those skill sets. So those combined. And then the last piece, which is the hybrid and multi-cloud. So this is the piece where it's like, not if any customers that we talk to today mostly use either one cloud and on-premises, that's super common, or use multiple different clouds for different use cases. And so moving forward, where cloud is evolving is like the skill set. If you have skills in all the different clouds or some of the clouds, then you're in a super powerful position from the job perspective to sort of evolve your career, because you understand the intricacies of different cloud platforms, and also deploying applications that are across these different clouds for efficiency, reduce latency, things like that. And security and DevOps is at the underlying layer of all of these things. How do you deploy your ML models? The whole DevOps cycle for that. How do you deploy applications? The DevOps cycle for that. And then security across all of these. Is the data secure? Are the databases secure? Are the applications in that you're deploying in compute options, are they secure? How do you secure them? How do you secure things that are multi-cloud and hybrid cloud areas? So those are the areas in which the jobs would evolve. That's where the innovation is happening. So that leads me into those are the job functions and roles, sort of in those four areas. And with that, I will leave you with some thoughts around where you are, and this is the homework, sort of where you are in your journey and where would you like to take your career. With that, thank you very much. I don't know if you're taking questions, but if we are, I'm here.